what we wanna do.
We're independent.
Give us any rule, we'll break it.
Break it.
Show us any move, we'll make it.
Make it.
Put up any title, we'll take it. And frisbee your CD, cause you faked it.
And yes, you are tuned in to KRBS Oroville 91.1 FM on your dial. I'm your host, Matthew Trees, and this is Quit Sleeping Radio, where we wake up minds and ask you to think critically about subjects happening locally, nationally, and beyond. This program is brought to you by you, our listeners, and also by the Treasure Chest located at 2085 Bird Street. You know they have a wide variety of collectibles and antiques down there. Their hours are Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can go and call them 530-533-5555. And I want to thank Treasure Trust personally for supporting community radio and shows like this. Coming at you live here in Northern California, one of the greatest places to live. A little bit about myself. I grew up in the East Bay area from 1982 until 2005 in Concord. And, you know, the hustle and bustle of all the things out there and being pretty close to the city, I know all about the craziness. And my youth was, let's just say I did a lot of things, a lot of growing. I learned things the hard way when I grew up, but I got into DJing, and I don't mean like this, you know, 2 turntables and a microphone kind of stuff. Yeah, I've been DJing since I was about 16 years old. I still got myself a lovely pair and like to mix some records up. And I'm talking about that deep mixing, not that stuff you hear nowadays, you know what I mean? I'm talking about real turntablism, scratching records, you know, which you will hear some from time to time on my show. But yeah, you know, I had 3 older brothers. They're half brothers. A lot of age difference, 13 years between me and the youngest of my older brothers. All boys, you know. I got a lot of influence from them. And yeah, just, man, totally, like, I could say I did a lot of stuff. You know, my dad was an insurance agent, so I got a lot of office and financial experience and background, you know, there. You know, my brother was in the military. I had two brothers were in the military, one that influenced me a lot. So, I learned a lot about, you know, military-minded kind of stuff and survival and that kind of thing. And I was in a lot of Boy Scouts type groups. And my dad was always a big camper and stuff. We went camping a lot when I was a kid. And, you know, I got into trouble when I was a kid. And, you know, got to see things that way, learn the hard way, for, like I said, through a lot of things. But one thing that stayed constant was music, DJing. I also MC. I'm into hip hop, and I write my own music and perform and stuff. And although I've done a lot of less of that lately because the scene is just not exactly as it was before, and especially out this area. And you know, and I got other bigger things to do nowadays. And as I've moved from the Bay Area out here, I started. My parents lived up in our what we used to go to as a vacation home up in the Plumas National Forest area, up in the mountains above Lake Oroville, and I was totally not into it. Really, I was like scared to go outside. You know, bears and mountain lions are gonna eat me and all this crap. You know, to a certain extent. You know, and kind of wanted to get away from that and get into the, you know, the scene life, you know. And so I moved to Chico, lived there for a little while, and I was doing a tour at the time. I was managing a tour of 10 different artists, groups, and kind of did that. Got to play with some big names in hip-hop and stuff, and all over the East Bay. I was still doing shows out there, even though I was living out here. So stuff was crazy for me, and I would never have guessed how much of a turn my life had taken. In the last couple years, I've gotten less and less into ego and into myself and putting myself out there, and more into, I think, what our roots all came from. And now my parents got a new place, and so I moved the cabin. What we call the cabin, it's mobile. up on 12 acres up in the forest. And I mean off the grid, okay? We don't have any power that comes here. We got our own well water that we have to pump to get to the house, just literally on 12 acres of forest. And I moved up here and started to learn about living off the land. Ever since, I've been fully committed to that, and now I'm like trying to do 100% off the land. I'm growing my own food. I am, like I said, I got solar power up here. You know, I've just totally learned everything what the nature has to provide. I burn my own, wood in the fire for fuel. I used to be a pretty bullheaded, I wouldn't say Republican, but bullheaded. Let's just say bullheaded. And, I was 100% drawn by the kind of the American Dad mentality in a way from that show. And, obviously I've now discovered the meaning of what really means to be an American and how our country was founded. And I'm currently, I'm a libertarian now, and, I truly understand the idea of independence and freedom, and I want to, share that with the rest of the world and my fellow Americans that have forgotten it. And it's kind of what the show's about. I guess you can say I've been pretty well-rounded, and I've been blessed by the people around me and my family. So I want to take that knowledge of, and I didn't even mention I've been a credit counselor also for 6 years, and a lot of people call me the credit guru. So I also bring that into a lot of the stuff we do here on the show too. People can call up and ask questions about credit as well. I'm going to be pretty wide open with what I do on my show. Yeah, I want to take that well-roundedness, and bring it to you. A lot of people say that something I'm good at is kind of breaking things down for people to make it simpler to understand. And so that's what I hope to do. I like to take news and break it down, how I view it in different ways. And I like to hear your opinions out there. I hope to get a group of independent researchers for me that will go out and do reporting, because I'm very opinionated. And I'm best when I'm giving my opinion rather than that kind of stone cold journalism that is out there where, like Democracy Now, kind of like, that kind of like Amy Goodman. Like I mean, she's awesome. Like I really respect that kind of a, approach to journalism. I think it's very, it's very good. It can get a lot of things done, but I'm not the best that way, and I don't think I'm the best for you that way. So I'm going to get myself a couple independent journalists. They're going to go out there and get stories with that kind of a non-biased approach to things, so we can get interviews with people that might not want to talk to me because they know how I am. Okay, so that's what I'm going to bring to you. I'm going to try to bring you the news that you don't hear on TV, the stuff that they don't want you to know about, the stuff that the establishment doesn't want you to see. That's what I want to bring to you, and that's what I bring to the table here. I'm hoping to bring in a couple, different musical guests here and there. Again, I'm a DJ and an MC, so I'm going to do some of my stuff. I do spoken word, I do poetry. I might bring some of that to the table. It's going to be a pretty diverse, mixed up bag, and that's what it's all about. It's all about liberty and freedom to do and express what you want. This is the First Amendment at its best. And again, you are tuned in to Quit Sleeping Radio. Let's get it started. The main purpose of this show is to expose tyranny in our surrounding areas and in the national community, and talk about how it affects us locally and what we can do to change these things. I could say that I'm a libertarian at heart. I am deeply committed to the foundation of this country and what it stood for and should stand for now. We are in a constitutional republic, in case you don't know. And that means our Constitution is the bottom line. Now, we elect officials, representatives in our areas, are the people that are supposed to represent us. And it is our duty as Americans to elect those who represent us in the community and to be active in politics. And what is the number one way we can help the people around us? It's not by new laws. It's not by new regulations. It is through liberty to restore the architecture of what was set up for us. Now, a lot of people will say that if you talk about the Founding Fathers a lot, that you are in an old way of thinking, that you're trying to go to the past. Now, I want to remind people that events in this world change, but it is a constant cycle. We gain new technologies and things of that nature, but the power structure is always going to be the same. There is always going to be the same temptations for control, and people with big egos are going to try to take advantage of the power centers that are there. And what I want to remind people of is that our founders of this country, and if you love America for everything that it's supposed to represent in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the freest nation ever to live so far, and the experiment of freedom, first time ever truly undertaken, then you've got to realize that these founders, they've been through and seen, coming from Europe, every form of tyranny and government that you could ever imagine. And when they sat down and wrote the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, they took all those things into consideration and wanted to give us a hope, a chance at something that's never really had a chance to experiment with, and that's true freedom and liberty. And they put in some basic principles of what that means. And so we got to think about that when we try to diss on our founding fathers, and we want to look back, in history at what things were like back then. And so I'm going to be doing that from time to time. I'm going to always keep it in perspective to where we are today. But we must think about the roots of where we're from to be able to understand the future. To understand history is to understand the future. Again, things revolve. And I don't just mean those trends that recycle, okay? Because that's all people seem to understand nowadays is, that things that recycle is like trends and music and things of that nature. But what we need to understand is that also the power structures and the modes of our world recycle. So today I'm going to be talking about out-of-control laws and control out of control. I always say, what does that mean? Well, I'm saying control is out of control. Laws are out of control. Did you know that this year we added 40,000 new laws in the United States of America? 40,000 new laws were created. Now, do you think anybody is going to be able, like lawyers and cops, they're going to be able to keep up with that? How does anybody keep up with that kind of thing? 40,000 new laws. And we don't have enough already, right? And I'll just tell you a personal story that kind of got me started on this path to doing this subject today. Well, Oroville Police Department, although there's plenty of wonderful officers here and they only follow the orders that are given to them by the people above, Oroville and Chico apparently have a new law. I have been trying to sell this 1993 Isuzu Trooper, by the way. It's a very nice vehicle, straight six, been redone, all kinds of stuff redone on it, $3,200, but that's a side subject. And so my parents, they live, well, I'm not going to say exactly where they live, but they live near the river. Let's just say that. I was parked, I live up in the mountains, so when, I wanted to sell my vehicle, I figured, well, not many people drive through the forest and, see things there, so I figure I'll leave it in Oroville. And since I don't want to get my, windows broken out and have problems, I leave it in front of their house. And I put a little sign up, and I left it for about 6 days. Granted, this is right on the driveway, or I'm sorry, on the street, right in front of their house, in a like a circle. They live in a circle, a neighborhood, And my mom calls me about 3 days in and says, "You got a ticket on your car." Oh, what is that for? I couldn't imagine what it was for. Well, find out. There's a law here in Oroville and Chico against putting a for sale sign on a vehicle. And I got a $15 ticket. Displaying for sale sign was what the ticket read. And I can just tell you right there and then, I almost popped the phone that was in my hand. I was so angry. I said, what the heck is this country coming to that we are going to give people a ticket for trying to better themselves by selling an old vehicle? I mean, I was born in 82, okay? And I'm sure the older of our crowd here listening right now is also enraged by hearing this. When have I ever heard of anything like this in my life? I mean, my whole life growing up, people had signs in their car, for sale signs. I mean, all over the place. Now, I understand when you park in a parking lot that you might get towed. That's why I didn't do that. I understand if you park it, in front of his neighbor's driveway or a neighbor's house, or you're leaving it somewhere, even, maybe I can understand even when you're leaving it somewhere for a long time, and it's, collecting dust and it's a nuisance in front of people, that I get. But like I said, I left it there for about 4 days and I got a $15 ticket. Now, to make the matter worse, okay, is my mom, she was trying to do the right thing. Now, and she took the ticket off to call me, right? Well, I wasn't able to get down to her house for a couple days after that. And by the time I got down there, I got a second ticket for displaying a for sale sign on the vehicle. Of course, at this point, blood boiling, I'm ready to go to city council meeting. Of course, I didn't because I've been pretty busy. But, and then I go, well, it's $15, and I got to call them and talk it down to just the one ticket because, I guess I should have. And then here's a little word of advice for people out there. If you get a ticket on your vehicle, leave it on there. Like, don't take it off. Like, if you get a parking ticket, and you come back from eating lunch, but you still got to do other stuff, don't take it off, okay? Leave it on there, okay? So that the dummy, traffic enforcement person, when they come back, and they don't remember that they gave you a ticket already, and this is just like what. Here's a couple points to this. For one, common sense. I mean, if I can't sell a car, you can't, and so what do you do nowadays? What do you do if you want to sell a car? Now I can. They're gonna say, well, it was on the street. It was not on your driveway. It wasn't, it wasn't on your property technically. Okay, all right. I get that. But seriously, is this what we're spending our taxpayer money on? Is a cop actually going through neighborhoods now to give us tickets and stuff? Well, yeah, they are. They're not only going through and doing that, but they're also doing a lot of other stuff. And we know now that the police agencies across the country are getting federalized and given federal money, and are getting hooked up to all these different federal programs that are out there to look and spy on your neighbors, and to see what's going on around the neighborhood. Now, I understand, checking out a neighborhood. Now, what I don't really get is, there was in their neighborhood, we had cops that live all around us. Now, you wouldn't think that your neighbor would give you a ticket, right? So I had to dismiss that in my mind just out of comfort. I had to try to dismiss that. And okay, then you say, oh, well, maybe he's asking officers to come by. Now, is that normal? But anyways, this is just one example of many things. My aunt, she comes to visit us a couple weeks later, and we have one of those rolling curbs. It's not a straight, squared curve. It's a rolling curve. And, like many people do, and I used to do all the time, and she put her tire up a little bit on the curb. And I'm not saying, like, all the way up. I saw it. She just put it up a little bit up on the curb. And she got a ticket, too, for putting her tire up on the curb. Okay? So we obviously have very hungry departments here striving for money, and this is how they're going to collect their money. Okay? Now, there's got to be better ways we can do this. But, okay, I'm going on a rant here. Of course, that's, anything that's personal. And I'm sure if it happened to me, it happened to you. So I'm going to open up the phones here in a minute, and I want people to call in. I want to hear stories that you've had injustices by out-of-control laws in our area, okay? And I want to just say the number one thing that sparks new laws, especially nowadays in the United States, is fear, okay? Something bad happens, we got to make a law to make sure that never happens again. A plane crashes, we got to make sure, we got to put laws against, got to make it harder to get a pilot's license. We got to make it harder to do this. We got to, regulate. 40,000 new laws last year. 40,000 new laws. Okay, so let's talk about some bigger laws that were put into place. And I'm sure a lot of us in this area are pretty aware of some of these things. First of all, National Defense Authorization Act. Well, like most people here, on December 31st, 2011, you were either well asleep or out partying, enjoying the new year. Well, not Obama. He was busy signing the number one most tyrannical law that was ever put into place in the United States of America, the National Defense Authorization Act. It's not as bad. We already have a number of executive orders that strip us of our rights when the Master-in-Chief feels so fitting. But now we have this National Defense Authorization Act, which allows the military to arrest American citizens on our own soil and hold them indefinitely, and even with the possibility of killing them. You heard it right. Execution. For all you people watching your sports and in La La Land and watching the celebrities on TV out there, not paying attention to these things, we are eroding our country and our Constitution. As we speak, it's being destroyed, and nobody seems to care about it. Well, I'm telling you, this National Defense Authorization Act, if you don't know, allows the president, through the military can come and arrest American citizens, hold them in detention facilities, unknown locations, anywhere in the world, not even in the United States, for indefinite periods of time without telling the family members, without their right to a trial, to due process. And the bonus of the whole thing is they can even execute these people. And what was it said? Why they would have this authority? Why they would do this? For suspicion of terrorism. Not even simply, which it still would be highly illegal and against the Constitution, but not even with probable cause. Nobody has to see that probable cause. They just have to suspect terrorism. And then, okay, this is where most people get thrown off on this, right? Because it was told to you that they took out the part that said American citizens. Oh, yes, but right at the end, right before they finalized the bill, and you look it up, people, look it up. Obama administration, and this has been 100% confirmed, the Obama administration asked that be changed to include American citizens. Why? And he'll tell you it's because at the time they were thinking of issues like Anwar al-Awlaki, okay, the American citizen who was a terrorist, supposedly, and did these things, okay? It was because, well, that kind of thing might happen. But he assures you that he won't use this on American citizens, even though it's in the bill. Now, that's funny, because we all know that presidencies only last 4 to 8 years. Well, there's no reason why some other president couldn't use the same law, okay? And not to mention, Anwar al-Awlaki was executed without trial, okay, an American citizen. Regardless of what you think or the facts was, every single person, I am even saying the people who hit the Twin Towers, if that's the way it went down, okay, which a lot of evidence points that they were actually working for the government at the time. Anwar al-Awlaki was actually dining with high military brass in the White House about a week or so after 9/11, okay? So I don't know where you people are at, but we got to wake up to this. The point is that totally nullifies the Fourth Amendment. That totally nullifies all the basic rights we know about having the right to a speedy trial, search and, like I said, Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment. Just the fact that it's scary thought to think that if let's say you're talking bad about the government, or they view you as a threat in some way, that you can be taken off in a black van and to a secret location and put through rendition and put through all these things without even your family knowing where you're at. You start to wonder where some of these strange missing persons cases, high profile people, that have been happening and are going to be happening in the future, I guarantee it, what that's all about. And also, we have a thing in this country called Posse Comitatus. Posse Comitatus, if you don't know, goes way back to the Civil War, where it said that never again will we have American troops on U.S. soil acting in a military capacity. Okay? And this basically says, oh, we forgot about that rule. And there's a good reason for that stuff. There's very good reason. Now, when our country was founded, most people don't know this. The Constitution doesn't even talk about a standing army. Why is that? Because the idea of our government is separation of power. The executive, the judicial, the representatives, a separation of power, okay? Which the people, you and me, we the people, are the most powerful part of government. We are the most powerful key to all this. And the reason why there's a separation of power is because we don't want anybody, any one part of this government to get any bigger than the other, okay, to be able to take control. Okay, we want to be able to see everything. We want to be able to be in control and check and balance. That's what it's all about. And what really saddens me is, and getting back to this about the Constitution, now the reason why we didn't have a standing army in the Constitution, because the army is controlled by the executive branch, and the only reason we would want to even have an army is for offensive action, okay? Armies are for offense. They're not for defense. It only called for a standing navy. Why is that? Because a navy could then go out and defend our country by going out into the ocean a little while to defend, okay, so that we don't have to bring the war upon us, or we don't have to send our troops into battle on other soil, which would violate other countries' sovereignties, okay? The idea of the United States was, hey, we've got freedom. We're going to be the shining light for the rest of the world, and then the rest of the world can duplicate that. It's not about we're so good that we're going to make you be like us. That's not what it's not about. Imperialism. It's not about convincing or forcing countries into democracy. And again, we're not fully a democracy. We are a republic, for a good reason if we were able to use it the right way. But back to my point is the reason we didn't call for a standing army is for that. And because what was supposed to be our standing army and what won the Revolutionary War, it wasn't an army, it was the militias, okay? Which goes into the 10th Amendment and the Second Amendment. The 10th Amendment says the states are sovereign. Each state in this union, 50 states, it's a union of states, okay, with their own constitutions and laws, okay? Each state has its sovereignty. It is in charge of itself. Now, each one of those states should have a militia to protect it. Why are militias there? Well, they're there if we are invaded, or if our government comes up and gets too powerful and is trying to suppress us. Why is the Second Amendment there? It's not there for hunting or, obviously it's could be used for defense of our house, but we didn't need to write that in a constitution, okay, for defending our own home. That's a pretty a no-brainer. Why it was put there? It was if government got too out of control so that we can fight back. You got to remember, we were under tyranny under Britain here, okay? They were British citizens, and the British government, empire, I should say, British Empire was getting out of control, taxing too much. That's what the Boston Tea Party was all about, okay? It was to show them, look, we're not going to handle this anymore. And then when that didn't work, and they saw that we were going to form our own constitution, that we were going to try to be free from that gripping hand of tyranny, then they sent troops after us. And Paul Revere, I hope to be like Paul Revere. Paul Revere ran around and told us the British are coming. And what did he tell us for? So we can get those muskets ready. We can get that gunpowder ready. We can get together. We can call the militias in. We can get this ready. That's what we set that up for. That's what the Second Amendment's all about. That's what the 10th Amendment's all about. And that's why militias are created. And that's why we were not supposed to have a standing army. Why do we have a standing army? World War, right? Now, all in all, obviously I wasn't alive then, but, they say World War I and World War II were our last great wars, or real wars, or for just causes, whatever you want to say, okay? And the truth is, that was the last war. World War II was the last war we actually declared war and went out and fought. Every single war, including Vietnam, including Iraq 1 and 2, including Afghanistan, including this thing we did in Egypt, this thing we did, and we say, we weren't even in Egypt. Oh, yeah? Go ask the people around there. Go look at the videos online showing special forces were out there. Okay? Look at it. We brought CIA. I almost just said CIA. I call them Al-Qaeda because Al-Qaeda, okay, the Taliban, whatever you want to call them, they just got all kinds of funny names for these people that are fighting against our powers, Westernism, whatever you want to call it, okay? And again, I don't condone or believe in any radical violence in any way, not one little bit. What I'm trying to say, though, is we actually funded and trained Osama bin Laden. We gave Osama bin Laden money. We trained them in Afghanistan to fight the Russians off, okay? We created this very thing that we're now fighting against. And so I call him Al-Qaeda because the CIA is the one that funded and trained these people, and we've been using them ever since. We used them in Libya, another illegal war. It's one thing, at least Vietnam, we consulted Congress, okay? We still didn't declare war as that is said in the Constitution. That should be. No, but we also, we went ahead and it was a peacekeeping mission. It was a spreading democracy, and we see how that ends up, okay? Now, those people, and I love it, Jesse Ventura, I was watching one of his speeches after he was elected governor of Missouri, and that was one of my favorite things, what he said in that. I mean, and let me just say this first, too, is that every single soldier out there that serves in the military, my hat is off to you, my friend. I thank you for your service, and I love all our men and women in the military, all branches, because the average person in the military does not understand the big hand that controls this system, and they are doing what they think is best for our country, and they're following orders. That's the way the system was set up. Okay, so before you get it twisted, I support and love all you troops out there, and God bless you. God bless America in that level. But what Jesse Ventura said about Vietnam is why militias are so important in our country, why the Second Amendment is so important, because people say, well, what is a little militia going to do to this army that we've got these days? Well, look at Vietnam. All those people we fought out there were nothing but a bunch of rice farmers and just simple villagers and they kicked our butt. Okay, and we had advanced weaponry. We had all kinds of stuff we were doing. A lot of people don't know we had weather warfare back then. We were cloud seeding the Ho Chi Minh Trail, extending the monsoon season by 3 months of every year. We were in that war practically. Okay, we were washing out the only reason why we even stood a chance for a while, and why it looked like we were even gonna hold some ground against them, is because we were drowning supply chain by extending the monsoon season every year, washing out their tunnel systems, washing out their bridges by a cloud seeding program we had in Vietnam. If you don't believe me, YouTube the father of weather weapons, and one of the colonels, he was a colonel before he left the military, the Air Force. He's got a documentary all about it. Explains everything about that program, but that's a side subject. The point of all this is we've got to protect our rights, and we've got to stop this tyrannical stuff and these laws and this fear that's out there. Now, one of my favorite quotes by Ben Franklin is, if you allow your liberties to be given up for security, you will have neither. And I want to say that very clear. If you give up your liberties for securities, you will have neither. And what do we see is going on in this day? We are so scared of this boogie man, this terrorism. Oh God, it's so scary out there. Never know what they're going to do next. So what have we done? We've gone and put these TSA agents in our airports. I mean, we've gone to no lengths. Bush, he put in the Patriot Act, okay? Well, Obama, he reenacted the Patriot Act 2. It's even got more things in it. I mean, wiretapping, you name it, okay? Internet control, they can do everything. They can read all your email. So many reports have been out. They are recording every single piece of data that goes on the internet and then sorting it through it with master computers and literally with people listening and different things. Okay? I'm not saying be scared. That's the whole point, and that's why they're doing that too. That's what you got to understand. They're doing all this to make you have fear. Fear of them, fear of the terrorists, fear of everything. Okay? Because with fear, they can do the biggest things in the world. Okay? Hitler bombed his own buildings. He bombed the Reichstag that came out after the trials that happened after World War II. It was admitted that Hitler bombed the Reichstag. That's how he got the authority to go into to Poland. Okay? Look it. Governments will lie to you. Governments will use fear to rally the people. And look at what happened in 9/11, okay? Whether you believe it was an inside job or not, even Rahm Emanuel, books that came out before that even happened, Cheney wrote, all talk about we need a Pearl Harbor-like event. Rahm Emanuel said, we can never let a bad thing go to waste. We can never let events go to waste. They will take opportunities, especially with fear. Fear is the biggest motivator to do everything out there. And I know all about it. My dad, for 30 some odd years, has been an insurance agent, okay? And if anybody knows about fear, it's an insurance agent. That's what they tell you they sell you all the time. Fear of this, fear of that happened. You better get insurance. Well, that's what the TSA is. It's just insurance, baby. And they're selling you that fear all day long, try to sell you that insurance. And what do we get out of it? Well, to possibly avoid a problem like 9/11 again, well, your grandma and your little child and your wife have to be groped or put through body scanners that have radiation levels that we don't even know about because they won't allow us to do any studies on them, even though a dentist and a doctor have to go through many tests throughout the year to make sure the radiation levels are safe, and you have to wear those lead garments and all these things. And they don't do the things that this stuff does. I mean, we're talking about a full body X-ray of you that has nothing. No lead to block anything on your body. They'll put anything there. And it's not just the people that are going through. So it's either get high doses of radiation or get totally molested by the Transportation Security Agency. Okay, and on record, these people they're not the best of all. And I know that there's good TSA agents out there. I think they're doing the right thing and everything. Again, they're in that sleeping state. They don't understand. They are into the fear too. And I mean, so many people will say, this dumb lady I seen on this documentary talk about, I'll give up my liberty for freedom. Those are the same things for one. But anyways, these people, these TSA agents are, caught all the time stealing money, filling on the breasts of movie stars. I mean, you name it, they've done it. I mean, looking at the naked body scanners of women and then going up to them and complimenting them, asking them out on dates. That one Miss America lady, she got an actual TSA woman, a lesbian, went and put her hand in her pants and put her finger inside of her. Okay, wow, you know what I mean? This is the kind of stuff that's happening, and I haven't been on an airplane since this. Well, actually, no, one time, but I went through an airport that didn't have the TSA. Weren't really. It wasn't a big deal. They didn't body scan you or nothing like that. I won't do it. I personally won't do it. Especially won't do it with my family. That's just crazy. But all this stuff has come out of fear. And what else? What other wonderful laws have come into place here? Oh yeah, Obama right now is trying to enact a new executive order which allows him to gain control under an emergency. When you look at the definition of emergency, it's not in time of war. It's not. It's anything that they consider an emergency. And if you all don't recognize or haven't seen this for the last couple of years, have you seen them using state of emergency a lot around California here? Anytime something happens, I remember when Arnold was still governor, there was those mudslides out in Los Angeles. State of emergency. The windstorms that came through. State of emergency. I mean, any little bit that anything that they can come up. Oh, when the possible tsunami was coming in from Japan, state of emergency. Do you realize that every time that we're in a state of emergency, and we can consider this a economic emergency, state of emergency right now. I believe the president declares that every so often. Anytime we're in that state, that means we're under the executive orders, under a multitude of different executive orders that give the government complete control. We got the John Warner Defense Authorization. We got, you name it. We got so many different laws out there that give dictatorial power to the president and things. It's just out of control. Of course, we know about the FEMA plans under an emergency, and all that documents came out of Rex 84. That was the continuity of government program back in the 80s that was put in place because we were at the end of the Cold War and everything, and so we wanted to make sure that we had and actually at the time that was just coming out of in the 70s when there was a lot of problems in the United States with blacks and whites, and after Martin Luther King, and there was a number of things that they thought groups or whatever might try to overthrow government. And so they put in this continuity government program called Rex 84. They had all these relocation programs of American citizens in the case of this. And, they even had plans for re-education centers, you name it. And if y'all don't know, in World War II, Japanese American citizens were rounded up all over the United States and put into detention centers. They did it back then. They'll do it again. And they have already a FEMA zones in the United States. There's 10 FEMA regions, and that's why I opened up coming live from FEMA Region 9, because California is in FEMA Region 9. There's 10 FEMA zones, and there's 10 governors for each one of those regions. Unelected officials, unelected governors, and then under a state of emergency declared so by the president, we got 10 new governors, we've got one dictator, and that's the way it is. Nothing you could do about it. And that brings me right into Agenda 21. If y'all don't know much about the United Nations, well, they're seeming to get more and more power over the years. And this is just another example. The UN, who now we ask them to go to war instead of the Congress. Leon Panetta here, just recently, our Secretary of Defense, told one of the members of Congress that they're going to be going to the United Nations and NATO to seek international approval to go into Syria. Going to seek international approval, and then they're going to go and tell Congress. Tyranny, people. Totally unconstitutional, totally wrong. There's a reason why we have a Congress. They're elected by us, and we decide whether we should go to war or not. Okay? Not a foreign group of nations, many of which are dictatorships, many of which are borderline, and horrible on their human rights, horrible on their civil liberties. We're going to allow these people to decide whether we can go to war or not? Totally wrong. We need to end this right away and wake people up to it. But anyways, the wonderful United Nations, whatever you believe about global warming, I think we can all agree with this. Governments lie to us, and people take advantage of things that come out like green technology. First thing you probably saw, and we all noticed, is that all these big corporations started using green in all their advertising. We're green this, we're green that. As we know, many of the companies are farthest thing from green, but they want to be trendy. It's trendy to be green. So they're going to take advantage of that. And I know that a lot of you environmentalists out there, and let me just say, hey, I'm a total environmentalist on the level of I live out on 12 acres off the grid, okay? I have solar power. I have my own food that I grow organically. I have animals, chickens. I don't buy genetically modified food. I only cut down trees that are already dead. I'm totally, dude, I don't kill. Everybody knows me. I even bring, bees outside and stuff and spiders. I don't even kill them. So don't talk to me about I'm not environmentally fit. What really needs to be going on, I don't believe personally in global war. I know that's not possible, and at least not the way that they're trying to mark it up to be. But that's not the solution. The reason why they brought global warming and carbon into this is because we breathe out carbon. Human beings, it's an anti-human agenda, okay? Carbon taxes, all these things are another way for governments to take advantage of us. They're taking advantage of that green movement. What we should be talking about is pollution and things that you can actually see and know are real. Do we even need to talk about carbon emissions when we can talk about pollution and all these other things? We got so many things we can fix out there. We're wasting our time and our lives on all this BS that they're trying to serve us. And under this Agenda 21 that was created by one of these guys who's a total globalist guy, is into eugenics, reducing the population. Okay, now listen, I took a World Food and Hunger class, all right? And one of the first things we talked about was Malthusianism, non-Malthusian, and if you don't know, a Malthusiast is a person who believes that the population controls the amount of food we get, and if we want to be able to live longer, we got to reduce population or control it or whatever. A non-Malthusiast believes that, or knows, because it is a fact, it's in it's in a lot of different reports out there. I'll have to post them up for you guys. But it's a fact that there's there's plenty of food for everybody in this world, and then some. We can grow all our food just on Africa and feed the entire world, okay? So don't ever believe that bull about population, okay? Oh, of course, to a certain degree, if we're doing things the way we're doing it now, if we're growing things genetically modified and we're not allowing people to grow gardens in their front yard, and we're putting regulations on us, this is what I'm all talking about here. Laws. Okay, but now, trying to stay focused, but this stuff really gets me angry. UN Agenda 21 says that we need to cut out population, We need to cut down land use, okay? They are across the board. They are trying to make us into a unindustrialized third world nation, okay? Through regulations, shutting down coal was the first one, okay? Obama's been big on that. Shutting down, okay? Not promoting, and trying to work things by education. Again, back to my original point, okay? Creating laws to try to help. Now, what really saddens me is that a lot of these people that are trying to do this stuff, I like to think at least some of them, not all of them, because some of the big ones, they know they're totally, power hungry and sick, okay? But a lot of good people out there are trying to do the right thing. They're trying to do the right thing. They don't really want to hurt us. They're trying to do the right thing, but they're doing it through a tyrannical way. That's what I never get. Is you got to have principles, man. You can't just say, well, I want you to do this, but, I'm going to make you do it. Okay? You're never going to get anything across that way. Okay? It's just like, when you got a child, you know what I mean, and he's doing something you don't like, you can talk to them and educate them why that's not something they want to do, or you can force them and punish them and see what happens. Well, I guarantee you it's going to be some craziness in the meantime, and before anything good happens, and it usually doesn't, and there's going to be an apology before there's anything good that comes. You're going to have to apologize for the way you acted because it's not the right way. Okay? Punishment is not the answer. Shutting down our state parks and our ability to go into the forest and our ability to burn firewood and our ability to do all these things that are come natural to human beings. And we are also part of the earth and part of the planet too. We got to realize that. Now, I'm totally for balance, okay? But I'm also for educating people about that. And that's happening naturally. See, we've got two things happening. We're growing naturally and learning, and I would have went in the store 10 years ago, there wouldn't hardly be any organic food, or if it was really expensive and there was a small section. You go to almost any grocery store nowadays, you got a big old organic section. Everybody knows about that. Everybody knows about bisphenol A and a few other the chemicals that come out, leach out of the water bottles and stuff. They're left in the sun. These simple things, okay, little simple things, but it starts to get the mind going, oh, well, that's bad for me. What else is bad for me? That's natural. That's through education. That's not through force. Nobody's forcing you to buy organic. In fact, it's still not a very good deal. Oh, wait, unless you grow it yourself, then it's pretty much free. You pay for it 1 year and it's free forever after that. Wow, what a concept. We're starting to wake up, but we really have to help our neighbors, and we have to do it through love. We got to call up our elected officials, and not through anger. We got it through love. We got to first, and anytime you talk to someone, this is the first thing you got to really remember to do, is you got to validate what the good is in what they're trying to do. Because I know, again, a lot of these elected officials, they're trying to do the right thing, but they don't understand, and they're in this system. That's just the way it is around them. It's the trend, okay? Okay, and this is a trend that I would really like to see go. We need to talk to them, and we need to say, I know that you want to, we want less fighting, in Walnut Creek. I know you guys want to see less fights go on, but I don't think this is the right way to do it. How about we go and try to educate the local schools? Let's get volunteers to go into the local community colleges, or maybe even let's try to work with the bars. Oh my God, let's try to work with them. Let's see if we can get comedians in there that talk that are positive people, that talk about maybe how stupid to fight, and make these people that fight look like idiots. Okay, let's do things that are positive. Let's work it within. Let's work with the bars instead of against them. With the people, the merchants. Let's try to have growth. Education's growth. Okay? Rights are growth. The Bill of Rights. All those rights we are inherent, okay, as sovereign citizens by a creator, whether you believe in that or not. It's the idea of it. Okay, no one else above us and a creator. No one else above us. Those rights enable, laws disable. And you got to remember that. Anything out there. And what the Constitution was are basically laws disabling the government. And that's the only form, that's the only thing that needs disabling in a way. They need to be held down, because I want to explain this concept real quick to people. You know, the idea of liberty or libertarians, you know, and freedom, okay, it doesn't mean that I don't believe in government. It doesn't mean that I don't believe in having some laws, you know, when they're created by the people. What it is, it's a local idea, okay? Local first idea. It doesn't mean that we can't have laws in our own communities, but anything that expands and gets bigger, you can't control it, okay? Let's make laws in our own cities and, you know, and stuff. Hopefully not laws, but let's work in our own communities locally. Let's not, you know, and then state, and then federal is the least. And the only thing the federal government should do, very simple stuff. It should defend the country, protect our rights, make sure that the states have their sovereignties, and basically just follow the Constitution to its letter, to the exact way it was written, okay? None of this interstate commerce clause crap that allows them to go in our business. Interstate commerce is what it sounds like. It's stuff that happens in between states, okay? Like the federal government coming in, even though California has a law says medical marijuana is legal, the federal government still comes in and busts shops and people. You know what I mean? If we made a law, the 10th Amendment, we got to remind them it's the 10th Amendment. You can't come in. That's not interstate commerce, okay? That's not interstate. That's our law, okay? Don't mess with it, whether what you believe about that or not, okay? Point is act local. You cannot control. You don't know what's going on even in the state. I mean, you can't really do much about what's going on in the state. You can control what's going on in the community. You can see it. You can see the effects of it, okay? There's no across-the-board thing that's going to work for everybody. I mean, you know, you do a water law in Oroville, and it affects, you know, or you do a water law in California. Well, we've got water here in Oroville, but people in LA don't, okay? So they're going to vote for it because they don't have water. They want water. You know what I mean? How does that work? Somebody's going to lose out. That's why we got to keep it local. Keep it local. Think about this kind of stuff. All right? So now I'm going to go to your calls. I want anybody to call in that's had similar stories or wants to educate people about maybe some initiatives, some petitions that are going on. And I'm an advocate of no on anything. No on anything. Unless it's to reverse a law. Pretty much. So anyways, I'm going to open up the phones. And I'd like to thank everybody listening from me and those at KRBS Radio, Oroville 91.1 FM. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for another edition of Quit Sleeping Radio.
We're gonna do just what we wanna do. We're independent.